Hi, here's our October update for Malaysia My Second Home facts and related issues. The big news is that the minister has backed down and has now announced that the new rules will not apply to people who are already in the program. And that, of course, was a promise that was made when they first joined. So basically what he is doing now is acknowledging that they do have a commitment. The one problem is that they have not made this declaration in writing, so there's no official announcement, which has got a lot of people worried and does raise the issue of whether there will be some exceptions made to the decision to allow people to continue living here. Maybe those who have not actually set up residence in Malaysia may find it harder to get renewals. The reality is we don't know at this point. So it's a good first sign. It does appear the decision was made reluctantly, and the minister is now insisting that the new rules will apply to people in the future. And again, there is no real justification that we can see for implementing these new rules. The existing program works quite well. It doesn't have a very big take-up. I have said before that since the program started, it's probably attracted just over 30, maybe less than 30,000 people during the past 19 years. So after 19 years, we have 30,000 more people living in Malaysia who have the Malaysia My Second Home visa. There are 9.5 million more Malaysians in this country because the population continues to grow at quite a rapid rate. So it's very, very hard to understand what threat is seen from this group of people. And all the calls for tightening of security and seeking high quality people are just not really being accepted as valid explanations for the new program. I think what's happened is that with the program being transferred over to immigration, they don't have the same perspective on marketing a program or the realities of attracting people. And that has sadly caused the situation we're in right now. It hurts us a lot because we've been very closely involved with the program. And now I receive lots of emails from people saying they're thinking of leaving the country. And even some saying after the announcement that the new rules would not apply to them, came back and said, well, it's just too late because we've tried and we no longer trust Malaysia. And of course, the other problem is that during the pandemic, the people with the Malaysian My Second Home visa were treated the worst of anybody. Spouses were allowed to come back to the country sooner. Even maids were allowed to come back from countries overseas when Malaysian My Second Homers were banned. There are a lot of people who have the visa, some who have the visa, but it just expired while they were refused entry, and they still can't get into the country. So there clearly is an issue here, which you can make up your own mind as to whether it's related to the decision to scale back the program, which undoubtedly is the objective. So it does seem like the current government is not particularly keen on the program. That's the takeaway I have. It remains to be seen whether changes will be made in the future which restore our faith in it. It is a bit unfortunate because the government that's now basically in power is UMNO, which was the party that was in power when the program was first announced. So I think it's a function of the specific people who are now making the decisions, and they obviously are not so keen on the program. Thailand has come up with a new visa, a 10-year visa aimed at attracting retirees and people who'd like to work there. So we're quite sure they will manage to attract a number of people away from Malaysia into their program. Moving on, we have people still complaining about My Travel Pass rejections. We're at a loss to explain them. We have tried to ask immigration what exactly are the rules that will enable people to get approval to come back into the country. This app is also the one you use if you want to take a trip overseas and obtain prior approval to return, so an exit and return approval. We've had people come back to us saying, yes, I put it in, I got an answer in a few days, I was approved. Conversely, I've had some people who told me I've tried 4 or 5 times and every time I'm rejected. And we really have looked to try and see what the difference is, and we have trouble understanding why some people are approved and why some are not. In all cases, the people have been fully vaccinated, so that was not a factor. It was in some cases that declines were going to countries which were the original 23 banned countries list, where they would not allow travelers into Malaysia if they were coming from them. So we can't provide much more enlightenment on that, except that there is some suggestion they're going to try and reduce the volume going through my travel pass, so certain categories are being told they no longer need to use it. Quarantine at home remains an option, providing you have a suitable home and providing that you apply at least 7 days before you return. And based on some feedback we've received where people did not get a reply in 7 days, send them an email. We'll put the address on the screen. And you can hopefully get a reply within that time, but if you can apply sooner, then you can be fairly sure you'll get a response. You must have a home that's considered large enough for one person to isolate themselves, so that is a requirement. The vaccinations have progressed very well in Malaysia. Over 80% of the adult population is now fully vaccinated, so there's been a lot of relaxations of the rules. People are allowed to go into restaurants and bars, most shops are open. Basically, there is a sort of return to normality, but people are still asked to wear masks all the time, and the requirement to get your My Sagittara app swiped every time you go in a mall or a shop is still there. So it's not entirely back to normal, but it is a movement in the right direction. What people are hoping for is that the borders will open up so tourists can start getting back in and that industry can start to revive, because they've certainly been suffering badly. They are now allowing some interstate travel, so things are, as I say, getting a little bit back to normal in Malaysia, and we're all hoping by year end we'll be in a much better situation, and hopefully some common sense prevails relative to the MM2H program. But I think probably the only indicator that will persuade the government that they made the wrong decision is when they see how few people are applying, and that the Malaysian economy has lost out because of the decisions that have been made. A quick announcement for those that are interested: we are starting up a sort of membership drive for people with the MM2H visa, so we can make a bit more effort to be a better voice for them. So we are starting that effective this month. It's 100 ringgit a year. We'll use the money to try and strengthen our voice on behalf of Malaysian My-Second Homers. And basically, it's an acknowledgement that although we've been giving out lots of free information for the last year, we probably will not be able to do that in the future. This video will continue to go out. It'll be free of charge, but the newsletter that I send out and the huge number of emails that I answer will only be available to members in the future. So that's all this month. I'll catch up with you again in November, and hopefully progress being made so far will continue. Stay safe. Bye for now.